That picture of Kimmy always makes me smile every single time. Of course, we're not seeing Kimmy in the constructor portion. He has been playing in the battlegrounds. Instead, we have Yueying taking on XHX. And if earlier today we saw two of the best known names, then Lucky Future and VK are up and coming. Yueying's not up and coming. We've known about him for a long time. But XHX making his name in this tournament, the Slayer of Bunny Hopper, came out triumphant in that 3-hour special during week 4, I believe it was. As you see here, I was a bit harsh earlier on LP for not bringing Demon Hunter, but it turns out that neither of these two teams have either, and that is because this was the week where Twin Slice was nerfed, and some teams clearly were not happy bringing it. As far as I'm concerned, I feel that the Twin Slice nerf didn't hurt Demon Hunter that much. In fact, I ran a lot of games of Demon Hunter after that nerf, and I don't think it got better, but it was still a really powerful deck and even had some better strengths. I feel like it became stronger against Druid, which actually would be really handy in this tournament. So it'll be interesting to see this week how many teams have brought it. Anyway, Yueying has brought the Hunter, which is nerfed, the Warrior, this Highlander Rogue, as you can see there by the presence of Zephyrus and his Druid, VK, the Warrior, which is banned out, the Highlander Mage, the Highlander Hunter, and their own Druid. For a change, neither team is starting with the Druid. Both trying to get the upper hand there. And Yueying with the early Zeph. Not a lot going on with it though, so having to take Wild Growth. And such a powerful card that he's willing to give up the tempo to have another go with it later. And this might not end well for him. Like Rogue, obviously a class that needs tempo. Obviously a Zephyrus is a superb card. The Wild Growth going into these 5s is going to be huge. But XHX has a huge curve here, and he will already be considering how he wants to go about using this coin. Does he want to play 2 3s, or does he want to go 2 3 4, mess around on 5, which will be fine by then because one of the 3s will still be in his hand, and hero power at worst, and at best he will have something better to do. And then the option to coin out Bran on 6 might just be game winning by that point. Always makes it a bit harder to know your opponent has a Zephyrus for 0 mana in hand. That will be a big deal in this process, but while he's just still putting damage into Yueying, he's okay. Well, if he wants to go big on turn 5, he's going to be able to now. Working on the assumption that at some point Zephyrus is going to wipe out a board of stuff. And it's for XHX to just keep building a board. Force that Zephyrus to be fairly inefficient. Easier said than done. You've got to play around Holy Nova. Got to play around Brawl. Got to play around the pre-shadow words of all kinds. So he's going to want to put up a varied board. But the end effect, I think, will be I want to hit you with a Bran. As hard and as quickly as possible. So Varanus fits nicely into this curve. I guess it doesn't because coin Bran's a thing, but it's still just a beautiful card if he wants to coin that out on turn 5 after playing the Feywing. He could be in a really good spot. And Yueying here has kind of given up 2 turns to get where he is. He gave up the 1 turn by bouncing the Zephyrus, the Shadow Step, and he gave him another turn with Wild Growth, which obviously both things advance his game plan. But look, this is it. This is all the Zephyrus is doing. This is not that amazing. And when does he play the card that he takes, whatever it is? If he takes a Shadow Madness, he ends up having trouble on turn 6. XHX doesn't know what was taken is the one thing. And is it hard to reconstruct a Zephyrus offerings? He'll have a rough idea what was offered. Then he's got to work out what was taken that wasn't played. And that's just going to be really difficult. And Yueying has exploded onto this board now. Using the Zephyrus and the fact it was 0 mana to his advantage. And all of that lost time made up in one go. Or at least a large chunk of it. XHX might now end up being in a position where he has to use the coin just to play out a Zigzaw, an Apex Predator. Or if not, he's going to end up keeping a very tense board state. And next turn, Yueying does have the option to Shadow Madness and start doing lots of damage. Decent lackeys has helped this somewhat, but most of the lackeys were good here. Draconic wasn't, probably not, and Spell lackey was probably not that good. Everything else was going to lead to a board state that was favourable for Lucky Future here. But XHX does use the coin to take some of the board back, and this is kind of, I want to say, calling Yueying's bluff a little bit, but Yueying does get the Shadow Madness, the Zigzaw now. She's great for two reasons, obviously. First of all, it pretty much, well, it does clear up the board, and secondly, sure, having his own Zigzaw Prime is nice, like really nice, but removing XHX's threat of having it is probably nicer. He is going to go with the straightforward approach of putting more things on the board. Did have the option to dagger and trade in that way, but just wants the maximum attack out there. Doesn't need the Swampoos, he's still got the Sticky Finger if needed. And XHX is now fighting a battle that is hard to win of my one big thing and your infinite small things. Downside of Highlander Rogue, of course, the Galakond is just not invoked at all. Yueying can at least advance that a little bit if he wants to, with the Shield of Galakond here. And the next couple of turns are going to be fairly cumbersome on both sides. XHX not happy with their situation, but the Rogue in an unusual spot, only being able to do one thing a turn at the moment with all these big things. Tough decisions all around. Could be pretty important. Seems reasonable to me to just throw that out there. And maybe even ignore the big old whelp, depending what comes up here. Yeah, he's got plenty of stuff. Just winning the efficiency argument here. And XHX. The downside of playing the best thing every turn is that it's only one thing. And we're seeing that now. Rogue, in the Masters Tour straight after the nerfs, did come out as the best class, so surprising. Well, it's not surprising we haven't seen it more here. I still want to see more Demon Hunter, so where are you going to find another slot for your deck? But Rogue not picked that heavily here, and I think one of the problems with picking Rogue is that it's not really a hard counter to anything, and this is last hero standing. It's just a good, solid class. And as you do with your good solid classes, you tend to open with them and find out where you stand. Another 5-drop for Yueying. Obviously it's another superb card. It's good fun turning lackeys into 4/4s, especially when the opponent has a 5/4 on the board. But it is stunting his development a little bit to just keep running into one card a turn syndrome. But it's XHX who's really got that problem. Starting to think unless he gets Varanus and Unleash off, he's just not going to get back into this. It's a little bit reductionist. He has got Shadow Weaver, Corrosive Breath and the Swampoos all in one turn to come. So still some play in this. And both players are over 20 health. I mean, there's a long way to go. But you just feel that Yueying has a lot of the tools he needs here. Yueying taking his time. It's good to see. Something that I've remarked on multiple times in this tournament actually is how the Chinese players have slowed down compared to what we're used to. A lot more thought going into play than maybe it used to. And good to see it. And for me, China is now the second strongest region in the world. Above Americas and APAC, not quite up there with Europe. Yeah, I know there'll be those of you out there who say, well, Lorinda, you're European, of course you would say that. But when you look at the money lists and all that stuff, I think it's fairly clear that at this moment in time, and for maybe the last 2 or 3 years, Europe have had the best of it. Doesn't mean it will continue. Doesn't mean I'm, getting all excitable about the Europe thing. These cost 0. I didn't expect that. I expected them to cost 1. Okay. Wait to see a Demon Hunter before judging what the Demon Hunters do, I guess. Or maybe I could actually check out the dates for the next video. I'll do that. You'll hear me writing now as I note down what I need to do. Helps to know which patch I'm commentating on. So I didn't expect that. Obviously this is powerful and obviously this will win the game unless... Well, it will win the game unless Unleash the Hounds is drawn next turn. And if Unleash is drawn, it still might win the game. XHX trying to land the bigger punches he can, trading in first. But he's basically out of this one now, and it's going to be 1-0 to Lucky Future. Nicely done. Remember, the VK were 6-2 at one point in this tournament, the end of week 4. And it's not gone well for them since. And XHX has been a big part of that. Lion only got to play one of the weeks. She was participating in The Brain, which is a Chinese reality show for very smart people, as I understand it. So she missed the first phase, and the second phase she hadn't played Warrior enough because of aforementioned duties on TV. So she didn't bring Warrior, and it didn't matter anyway. She just got Druided completely off the board in her first match, and then in the second match kind of didn't really get into that one either. So Lion not able to exert her influence on the score sheet enough yet. Alright, Yueying walking into the Druid now, which has been the most important class in this tournament so far, with Demon Hunter and Warrior getting banned out, especially Demon Hunter in general. Then Druid has just been the go-to, as it was for the APAC players in Grandmasters as well. I ridiculed Druid quite a lot, I must admit, in Conquest. Its win rate didn't climb above the low 40s for the entirety of the tournament. And I'm still not really sure that Druid is very good. I know what is good though. That is just getting Zephyrus on turn 2. Goes for the Wild Growth again. This deck obviously much higher mana costs than usual. Nice to keep up with the Druid as well. So he does have the flick available for a Glowfly Swarm next turn because of this play. And that's a really big deal to be able to take care of that. That's one of the ways you just lose as a rogue. But as it happens, XHX has bigger issues to worry about. Straightforward looking play to just ramp and crystal power down the Zephyrus. And that would leave him with a nice empty looking hand to overflow with. And then would be able to Mount Cellar afterwards. There was the option. So this is why he would have taken his time. I assume he's going to overflow now. There was the option to not crystal power there. And then next turn he would have had the Mount Cellar, the Bog Beam, the crystal power to set up a small but irritating board. If he'd known he was going to draw on the Ironbark first, he may even have gone for that. But obviously he's in a position now to set up an extremely good looking board next turn. Yueying though, you can see, you don't want to give Rogue Wild Growth very often. Not a ramp that's coming now. You can play Alexstrasza next turn, right? 7 mana, of course the Wild Growth. Gets the Mana Saber for 8, Coin for 9, Alexstrasza. And off you go. That makes it harder though. And XHX obviously wouldn't be a fan of the flick, but doesn't really matter when you get the Soul of the Forest down as well. No Shadow Step available for the flick to do some sort of crazy. Not enough mana for that either anyway. So Yueying needs to decide how he wants to approach this. Does he want to flick the best of his ability here? And remove a good chunk of other stuff as well. He knows he's probably in trouble the turn after. That's the downside of this. Or does he want to hope he's not dead? Like, one thing you can do here if you are feeling fruity is just jam as much attack on the board as possible, and that's a lot. Hope you're not dead and win on the backswing. But this is a more natural looking play. This is the play that I would make. Try and keep things under control before they go completely nutty. And now it's all going to come down to this Mount Cellar play, most likely. Plenty of stuff for XHX to do here. And this Power of the Wild's pretty good as well. I'd have been tempted to actually play the Power of the Wild here, because trading in the 2/2s actually makes space for some bigger beasts. But obviously Bog Beaming for 0 is nice. And he is going to do it that my way, but he's going to do it better because he's going to make sure he buffs everything on his board, not just a couple of treants. Interesting to see where he puts the Ironbark. Not actually the most trivial of decisions. You don't want it on the Mount Cellar usually, against Rogue anyway. Against Warrior you absolutely want it there. So this looks good. And looks like next turn lethal. Unless Yueying can find himself a Alexstrasza. Sorry, a Deathwing from Alexstrasza. Yep, that's what he's going for. You know things are looking grim when you have to go for this. And he gives it up. XHX gets it back to 1 apiece. And we'll be running Druid in game number 3. Yueying a choice between his Druid and his Warrior. And he runs it with the Druid. And this is something I've seen more often than I would like, is people not favouring the Warrior. is something I just don't agree with. I think that the warrior is so strong against the druid. But I have played a lot against this druid. Against dragon druid, not so much. But against spell druid, you just have access to kill their boards. You have access to kill your opponent. You can put pressure on and the druid just does nothing and it loses horribly. Again, when your opponent's playing Emerald Explorers and stuff and just generally irritating you and getting in the way, then there's an argument for druid being better. So maybe he really wants the warrior to run into the mage. Anyway, he's gone for the mirror. And it's going well for him so far. Neither player picking up their glowflies, which is obviously what we normally look for. And it's going to be Yueying who gets first go at the Mount Cellar, although not a whole lot going on for him here, but it's still enough. And the most important thing is it's going to be there next turn. When he gets to Fungal, he gets to do all the things. Does he want to Moonfire now? I would like to Moonfire now. The likelihood is you're going to have to trade into your opponent's board next turn. So you want as many minions as possible to do that with. And of course, Yueying pretty expressionless, but I wonder if I detected a slight sort of hoo-ump there, as if like, well, if I know it's going to be Zigzaw, I'd have done it next turn. Of course, I haven't gained anything. XHX though, with his own monstrous turn coming here. But unable to remove the Mount Cellar, and this is why getting the first one down is so huge. Because Yueying is going to be able to remove XHX's Mount Cellar. Alright, a couple of good rolls there at least for XHX. He's feeling it. I'm sure I am. Working out where to put these bog beams. Do you want to kill some minions or do you want to get to work on this Mount Cellar? So he's getting all the other information first. Trying to find out exactly what he has available. Does he get any rush minions, for instance? Does not, so concentrates somewhere else. Puts the surplus onto the Mount Cellar because he's going to have to kill that at some point. He'll be hoping the Cobra gets the job done. But I mean, there's some worlds where this is lethal. There's 13 damage attacking on board available here. With a Savage Roar, you can add 8 to that. That's 21, plus the one from the Hero Powers, 22. Plus a Moonfire, 23. I don't think he's going to get there. Mainly because he doesn't need to. Killing all of the opponent's big things and good things with these Crystal Powers and Moonfires. And Zigzaw, which he may try and trade away. Curious to see how he plays the Zigzaw Apex Predator here. Because he has more spells available, so might just want to make some more space. But obviously it's a powerful minion, so he might not. I want to see how he goes with this. Got to get rid of that Cobra. That's the biggest deal here. Got to do something quickly as well. Picks up a second Zigzaw. And yeah, he does trade it away, so he gets the maximum value out of all this. And XHX trying to work out how he can even do anything. Well, he can kill off the Mount Cellar, so he probably shouldn't concede. And hope his opponent hasn't got Savage Roar. So he wins in the world where he kills the Mount Cellar. Yueying doesn't have Savage Roar or a multitude of other cards, but they don't kill XHX immediately. And then XHX has an amazing turn. So I think he has to overflow and power here. Power to get rid of as much as possible on the board. And then overflow to try and set up for next turn to have a great turn. Again, I don't really know what that great turn is. But nothing else will get him there. So this makes sense. This is good. And he's actually not dead to the Savage Roar either, I don't think. 10. I say that. It's really close. 7, 10, 12, 13, 23 available. Before the draw step. But XHX at least gets himself some play. And there's another Mount Seller. And that's the problem. Yueying just going to fill the board back up again. And Druid, you can cope for a little while. How many Zigzag Apex Predators are we going to see in this game? You can cope for a little while, but eventually these wide boards are going to get you. So can XHX find something here? That's not something. Can he get a card out of this? He can draw through with Fungal. I believe there's only 3 Taunt Dragons. So that's not ideal for him. Needs to get a crazy level high roll here, because now there is lethal on board on the other side. And this is not what he was looking for. I mean, it's what you expect. It's not like he expected better. But it's not what he was hoping for. No, although Nozodomu always puts the pressure on. And it can actually time you out here. Yueying can have animation problems. Is he going to have that problem? Can he get everything in face in time? I think he's going to. But Nozodomu really eats into your time with animations sometime. Yueying's a pro. He doesn't mess it up. And it's 2-1 to Lucky Future. And a big deal. They're trying to keep up with IG, who have already got to 9 and 4. 8 and 5. Keep them in their sights for that top finish. Now we get the Mage versus the Druid. Nice looking hand for Yueying. XHX trying to work out whether to keep his Blizzard or not. The problem is it looks like it takes on Glowfly Swarm. 6 mana versus 5 seems like a fair fight, give or take. As the box just awakens the caster to the situation. But the problem is obviously that your 6 mana turn and the Druid's 5 mana turn are worlds apart. And that's a Dragon caster. So everybody hold tight because we might be getting a very early box here. We might also be getting a very early huge Glowfly Swarm. Yueying killing that off. Challenges his Glowflies, so yeah. Rolling Fireball, another big deal. Wipes out a lot of Glowflies. And nothing at all for XHX. And Yueying does draw spells, so he gets 6 Glowflies on the board. But can't play the power. Oh, didn't play the power of the wild. More to the point. The action is going fast, but he could there have played the power of the wild, and only 2 things would have died to the fireball. Both players were playing really quick through that sequence of events, so I didn't have time to really mull it over in my head. But 6 3/3s would have been super difficult to deal with. As it happens, with Reno, they would have been dealt with. And with this line where he's kept the coin and kept the innovate, XHX isn't dealing with this. Look at it. It's insanity. If he plays the Reno, Yueying just fills the board back up with minions. So I think that XHX is going to box. He's playing incredibly quickly. This is the same player who had a 3-hour game. His hero has an attack. And he's pointed at every minion, and I think that all the minions have gone. This might be an amazing box. We don't know what's given the hero attack yet. We don't know if I'm right. So Savage Roar is what has given him an attack. And a lot of these minions were not there when XHX tried to target them with his face. Well, it looks like there's 3 of them still there. Okay. So what do you want to hit? Oof, 8 damage. And Mount Seller survives, and that's not good news for VK fans. Let's have a look at the hand. How's he going to deal with this? Well, there's Malagos next turn, but no dragon in hand. He does have the Prime in hand, but that's not available next turn because he's overloaded. Because obviously you would be overloaded on turn 7 as Mage. Why wouldn't you be? And Yueying has just built a monstrous board. Dodged the mistake I would have made earlier and buffing the board. Just playing to his Mount Seller and using the Glowflies as bait, as a distraction. And he is in this position now where he should get this done. Lethal setup on board. So XHX basically has to put this taunt in the way. Doesn't look very convincing though. Every spell, remember, just going to generate yet another minion. Yep, no point holding on to it, Yueying. You will get another card in a couple of turns, but it's a long way in the future. Right, XHX can Blizzard to keep this under control for one more turn. The turn after the Blizzard, he can Reno and maybe clear everything up. Maybe that's what you go for. He needs to slow down. I'm trying to keep up with him. So, if he Blizzards, there'll be a 5 health, a 1 health, a 2 health minion on board. Doesn't guarantee that Reno would clear. So he just goes for the Prime. Which goes for a puzzle box as the first spell. We'll still have more spells after that. And I'm just going to see what happens here. There's too much going on. But getting a puzzle box... it's just nutty. All sorts of stuff's going on. A little bit of armour is very welcome. It's attacking again. Not a lot happened, but I mean, there's just spells flying around all over the place now. Nobody knows what's going on. I'm sure somebody does, but that somebody's not me. Take down the last minion. And next turn, Blizzard. So I'm trying to work out if Blizzard into Reno would have been better. I mean, obviously, the way it turned out, it wouldn't have been better, but... the way it looked, like it was pretty certain to clear everything up. Don't think he should be too bothered about his hand being too full. Tell you what, so obviously Blizzard Ping just clears up the whole board here. Is there anything better than that? Well, Amazing Reno might actually be better than that. It keeps back the Blizzard for emergencies later. Still clears the board and progresses your own board. So even though Blizzard Ping is the instinctive move, I think it's the wrong one. I think you Reno, and then maybe even turn it into 2 other minions with your Conjurers calling. And from nowhere, well, from nowhere, from 2 boxes, XHX looks like he's got this. Overflow can turn it around into a Asura, maybe? Well, there's the Overflow. They're drawing cards on demand. There's the Asura. Oh my. So does he need to save the fungal, or is it too slow? He could have waited maybe to Asura and then fungal. If he could possibly pick up the second innovate. Bit of a long shot. XHX needs to get this over within 2 turns. He's in a fine position, he should be okay. But doesn't want it to drag on. Druids can be really irritating in that regard. Talking of Dragon, there is the big Dragon. Asura herself, creating portals wherever she goes. 17 on board. There must be 3, right? Somewhere there's 3. You play Malagos here, so you find Fireball, surely. Then you decide what to do if you don't find it. There it is. That makes life easy. Kill your opponent. Play the Fireball last, just in case there's any doubt. Just to upset them. And it goes to 2-2. And the Druid is once again doing things, and XHX is once again trying to reverse sweep. He's already had one reverse sweep, the one that I will not shut up about, in the match against Bunny Hopper. Can he do it again? Got his work cut out against this warrior deck. It's a slow start for XHX, but maybe it's enough. Let's have a look at Yueying's hand. Yueying's hand is okay, but no more than that. It needs to develop. If it doesn't develop next turn, he could start getting into trouble here. Against Mage, you, as the warrior, you win a lot of games, but the ones you lose are on fairly fine margins, like having a slow start, even if it's just one turn slow. So the reason you have a high win rate is because you don't miss that very often. But the reason things can get scary is because when you do miss it, like now I would call missing it depending what happens next turn if there's no weapon, then the mage does have enough resources to try and get you. Right, this gives Yueying options. His hand is awful. He's going to be tempted to use his skipper early. He's going to be very tempted. Let's have a look what he chooses to do. It's usually wrong. Usually whenever the option is there to try and set up this early battle rage, something bad happens. But honestly, I would really consider strongly here with this bad start going for the skipper and the battle rage. So he gets something else developed, gets the armorsmith out there. Looks like he's going to save the skipper for sensible things on turn 5. If he wants to draw a Sky Raider, he'd have the option to go for skipper, battle rage, draw 4. The XHX now does have a little bit of time. Just a little. He doesn't really have to kill Yueying, so the armorsmith, whilst irritating and needing an answer, is not necessarily the end of everything. Let's see where his mind's at. Arcane Intellect does... First of all, it's difficult to get going because his hand size is going to increase with this expensive hand, but it does give him the option to try and go into the box option. But he thinks he's in a good enough spot that he can just play sensible Hearthstone, and I agree. Yueying not messing around here with this Corcon Elite. Nice though it is to save it for emergencies. He's done no damage, so he's getting that connected, and then next turn he can go into this Battle Rage or Corsair Cache. Both are going to be strong. Probably Corsair Cache. You try to save your skipper and your battle rages as long as possible. Usually that's going to get you the best result more often than not. In the perfect world, you run out of cards and you battle rage and do it all again, and that gets you the maximum amount of tempo available. Okay, it's the anchor. Going to give him even wider range of options now, due to the chance he'll get the second skipper soon. And as you can see now, everything's worked out pretty decently. Not getting greedy on turn 3's gone well for him. And XHX on 17, still in with a chance with this big looking board, but he's taken enough damage that things are going to get awkward for him. And wow, this is a slow animation. Thanks Armorsmith, has to go dink every single time. What point of damage is done? Right, this is the flip side of what I've been talking about. Good side for him is he's got the Risky Skipper, should be able to do some damage, remove at least one of these minions. The downside is that it's not so easy to draw a million cards as it was earlier. Still going to be fine though. Face the Reno, draw some cards. Fill your hand back up. Exactly where he wants to be at. Yueying. Some nice pickups there, but no direct damage. Remember, he has used a Cork on Elite, so a little lower on mercenary combo options than normal, but doing well card-wise. Lots of choices here for XHX. Conjurer's Calling, a thing that's going on. Blizzard is handy. Zephyrus is always there. Maybe XHX feels he can get this one done. The trouble is it's so hard, you've got to play around key numbers, so 12 coming in from a Grommash and Inner Rage, for instance, is something that he will be very aware of. So he'll be looking to get a taunt down. He doesn't have one right now. So he is going to go for the Conjurer's Calling option. Try and fight this on the board. Pretty decent pickups there. He knows he's got to get through a second Risky Skipper, but if he gets through the second Risky Skipper relatively unscathed, and with his resources getting towards where he needs them to be to get this Alexstrasza down, of either variety, common or garden, it's going to be a really close finish. Getting taunts from the first Conjurers is pretty important. And this is the second Skipper. This is kind of it. If Yueying doesn't get it done with this Skipper, he might not get through this game. Without executes, warriors do not get through these big minions very well, and Dragon Queen Alexstrasza in 2 turns' time is going to generate some of those. That all being said, Yueying is going to put lethal on the board, and so XHX is probably going to need to Blizzard or possibly Zeph into Brawl and take his chance. Actually, could Zeph into Shadow Word kill big things? Leave Yueying with just a 2-1. I think that's the official word for it, right? Shadow Word Ruin. For those of you who've got no idea what I'm talking about. What other options does he have? Well, he's got the Frost Nova available, but he doesn't really have any development to go with that. So what he wants to do is get an empty board, play his Dragon Queen Alexstrasza and 2 dragons, play his other Alexstrasza, put Yueying to 15, and come in with enough dragons to do 26 damage if you count the pings. Yeah, there is the Shadow Word Ruin. No thought of coin pinging. Look at his hand. These 9s and 10s just too important. Yueying going to do what Warrior does best though, just chip away. 5 more damage to face, and the War Maul will likely... How will he choose to do this actually? Oh, well that's how. I don't see any reason not to put the Southsea Deckhand into face now as well. Because the Kobold Lackey. He must know that board will be dealt with though, so... Maybe he's going to play the War Maul Challenger just to use his mana efficiently. Quite a tough turn. He gets a 1-6 that way, a 1-4 that way. I think this is correct. It looks really weird when you first look at it. Southsea plus Kobold looks so much better at first glance, but when you acknowledge that that board will just get wiped out by, I mean, look at the hand, by any mage cards, having a 1-4 and still having the versatility of those 2 cards, War Maul probably wouldn't get a better option. But having a 2-2 damage spells which is what they are, they're both minions, ready to snipe. I like this a lot. XHX showing us what he wants to do. He's dead at any time now to Grommash, and there's only 10 cards left in Yueying's deck. Is he dead here? I think he's got it. Yep. It's actually lethal damage. With all the little buffs and all the messing around. And XHX, no glory comeback for him this time. Yueying holds on to take a 3-2 victory and put Lucky Future to 8 wins and 5 losses.